Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night podcast. My name is Kent, and with me tonight is Courtney,
Hi.
Adam,
Hello.
Matt,
Hi.
and Rob. You like that?
It was great.
Man, that is...
Bro, if you know what, oh my gosh. Parks and Rec, Ron Swanson, when he's the jazz player, what is the jazz player's name?
Duke Silver.
Bro, you sounded like Duke. Hey guys, this is Ken Parks.
There we go.
Come on me with this.
It was very relaxing.
Come on me with this journey as we go down this board game highway of love. Always is Courtney. That was nice.
Good.
Hey,
Good.
Duke,
Glad
how
you
are you,
enjoyed it.
sir?
I am excellent. How is everyone?
I like to think of Kent as the Duke Silver of board gaming. That's yeah. He's smooth
definitely-
like that. Kind of mysterious, secretive.
A little bit.
Good stuff.
So, as you all may have noticed, we are without a one Roy candidate and also Ruthie. So,
Yeah.
they are currently out west for Dice Tower West, which we're not jealous at all about.
Nope.
But here we are
For real.
tonight.
It's so warm here in Michigan. None of those pictures Roy's posting from Nevada are making me upset about my frozen driveway at all.
Yeah, I bet.
It's actually been nice here in North Carolina. It's in the
Yeah,
70s. It's so nice.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
weather.
y'all
I don't know how much longer it's going to last, but
keep it for when I'm there.
Yeah, exactly. But you never know with North Carolina. It's
Parts
just,
of California under like 9+ feet of snow.
Yeah, that's something crazy.
it's
It's like
crazy.
70 degrees. It's nice.
wow.
So Dad, what are we going to talk about, Dad? What's going on, man?
So, all right. So tonight we have a show on the schedule here. We are going into, hold on. We are going into some news, as usual.
Ta-da.
So our first topic here, let me adjust some things. Anybody want to start off with this one?
Yeah, man. So, Archaeos Society is the first thing on the docket to discuss. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but
It doesn't
is-
matter.
Yeah, I'm not
it is
sure.
Call it
But
whatever
that
you
sounds
want.
right. That sounds right.
I mean, it. Never mind. I was gonna venture
great.
off topic immediately, so let me not do that. But the game that was announced is basically a retheme and reprint of Ethnos, which is a game that we love and also love to bash, just because of the
This is that game.
lackluster art.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the gameplay is incredible, and so this looks like a complete overhaul with new theme, new art, same core mechanics. But I mean, it should alleviate a lot of Rob's critiques and complaints about the first one.
Yeah. So Rob, were your complaints about Ethnos just it was the board art? Is that right?
Yeah, the card art and stuff wasn't that bad, but then it didn't match up at all with the board art. So like the card art, very dark, and like faded,
Old school fantasy art.
portraits, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then all of a sudden you have this sort of pastel, bright but not bright color board. It did not work well. And so when you're just, when you're doing the eye test when you're window shopping, to me I was like, this is so dumb. It almost reminded me of like a Stronghold game.
I was
It's
just
like,
gonna
I bet
say,
the game's
old
really
school
good,
Stronghold
but it looks
game.
really bad.
The graphic design. It's the graphic design. The Stronghold games, like the art would never match the graphic design on a game. You're like, oh, I
Yeah.
really like this, but what's this font?
Yeah.
It's like they hired Stronghold to make
That's
it.
exactly it. Yeah, Stephen Bonacore was like, Ethnos, and here's what we're going to do. And hold on, how much is that going to cost? Never mind. Use these fake pictures over here. And I think I have some leftover crayons. Do this.
Well, I don't know about
It's a
all
great
that,
game.
but
Stronghold
I didn't mind
is
it.
a
But
good
I
game.
I do hear a lot of complaints about the original. So hopefully this new one is going to look a lot better. Maybe they make some tweaks.
I hope
I don't
that's all
know.
they do. I hope it's just
Well,
a reskin.
I would
Because
love
the original
new-
game is great.
New factions, like
Yeah.
how Ethnos. One
Yeah.
of the really cool things about Ethnos was how each game you played, you had maybe like 6 different factions in it.
Yeah.
Which really, each one really changed up the feel of the game. So if they could just make more, that would be really cool. I would love that. Kind of like what they did with Libertalia. I know this is the same designer as Libertalia. So if they add in just maybe a few extra factions, that would be amazing.
Honestly, though, I did not know it was this game. You know what this board or this picture sort of reminded me of? I thought this was a remake of oh my, I just forgot. It was the game of yours, Kent, that I broke. The
Oh, Mountains
Mount,
of Madness.
Mountains of Madness. Yeah,
Yes, I
I
could see
thought this
that. It's
was
got a
just like a
similar.
theme of that. Um, so I'm
It's got a little
interested to
similar
see how they're
artwork.
going to do this because the thing that I don't like about this cover art, if it is going to be Ethos 2.0, is like we're not really seeing any individual factions. It looks like we're going on an adventure, and like Indiana needs to retire, like the Nazis are dead,
Yeah.
and so it looks like we're doing that. It doesn't necessarily seem like I don't see any dwarves or elves or giants or
Yeah, it's not going to be fantasy at all.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be more like that.
Are you fighting people?
No, it's
You're sending out-
archaeology based.
Yeah.
So
Archaeologist.
you're basically going to be sending out expeditions. So what I imagine the factions or the different cards that you could play would probably be certain ancient civilizations, and so you're going, okay, I've got 3 of the Aztecs or something.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
Mythology.
It could also be
That's
like
what I'm
different
saying.
experts in the fields. Like
Yeah, I
in the
was
different
thinking
fields.
like an archaeologist and like a pathfinder and stuff
Yeah.
like that, or animal
Makes sense.
tamer,
Have a
Yeah.
paleontologist in there somewhere for bone stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Egyptologist or whatever. I was thinking more like kind of those like 1940s Indiana Jones type characters that might come help Indy kind of a
Yeah.
character
Right.
list. You could have a bunch of little simian friends, little monkeys or something. I don't know.
Yeah, man.
That'd be cool.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
they've got a lot of different ways to go.
We'll-
And so
we'll
it's
see.
scheduled. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
No, sorry, you go, sir.
So it's scheduled for
Okay.
June 2023 this year. So we'll find out soon. Hopefully, we'll get some new
Straight
some
to retail,
new art.
like
I don't think it's Kickstarter because it's Space Cowboys. They pretty much go straight to retail. At least they have in the past.
I can't think of Space Cowboys Kickstarter. I'm stoked on this. I think it's one of the cooler gateway games mechanically that I've played in the last few years. I just really love
Yeah.
it. Every time I put it in front of a group of people who aren't gamers, they pick up on it really easy. But this strategy and the variety and stuff is all there. So
Yeah.
it would be great for it to have table presence and have something memorable in like what you're looking at. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of the few games that goes up to 6 players that plays pretty well at 6. It doesn't make. I mean, it makes the game a little longer, but it's not like painfully long or anything with 6.
no, it was very smooth to play that at 6.
Yeah.
The hardest part was scoring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scoring can be a little tedious at
don't have
times.
to yell at us, Courtney.
Sorry.
Out of nowhere.
All right. So next we got.
I won't talk the rest of the
So
podcast.
this is-
so we
I
can-
hope you talk more. I hadn't heard you this whole time. So all of a sudden it was just like, bam.
So this is a pretty interesting game. This is Valbara, coming from Studio H and Hachette board games. So this is it's kind of a filler game, and it's set in the I think you're.
It's like Paleolithic Man, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
Period.
Yeah, and you are controlling your tribe, and you've got different character cards that represent different members of your tribe. Everyone has the same cards, and it's a simultaneous action selection game where you are essentially just trying to collect land cards. And so when you play your character down, different things happen based on which card you play and which card your opponents play. And it looks really nice. There is a version it's out on Board Game Arena right now, so I've played it once on there, and it was really neat and quick and fun. So, anyway, it's probably one worth looking into if you like the kind of fast playing filler, really nice artwork kind of thing.
This almost, I know there's not really a whole lot of art for it, but it reminded me of the, what was that game we played at Dice Tower last year with the little wooden pieces, and we were making totems.
Oh, that was Iwari.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
kind of
cards.
what it seems like to me. Something that's like
So
really-
that was one. Iwari was the one with the really pretty cards, and you're putting
Yeah.
out. It's like an area control game where you're putting out totems and putting out different
But it
your
was quick,
tents.
though.
It's quick, yeah.
Mhm.
So this is much quicker than that. This
Yeah.
is like a 20-minute game, about 20 minutes. So it's like a filler that's
How many does this play?
2 to 5 on this one.
Man. Because I really
Yeah.
like that game that Matt just brought up. I thought that was a lot of fun. And it was also really beautiful.
Yeah, that
I
is.
also
That's
like
a
the
fun
art
one.
on this.
Yeah, this one looks great. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
The art is
So this one, I want to say, I'm not certain, but I think it might have been released overseas already. But this was an announcement saying it was coming over to North America, and
Well, and it has a bird on it, so everybody who plays Wingspan should love this game.
I think it's a little bit different.
There's
a little
owls.
I like. Is that the Wingspan targeting block instead of the people who really like trains? We just really like birds.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Hold on. How are we going to get those people? Put an owl on it. Done.
And this one's coming in. Looks like May 2023, so pretty soon, not too long.
Man, now I just want them to design an 18xx game that trades bird stocks, just so we can really become full circle here.
All right. Next one is the Dragon Eclipse.
This looks so good.
Yeah, we're all hype on this.
This cover is
Oh my gosh.
beautiful.
Look, I'm really struggling right now financially. I'm going to buy this game, though.
Off stream, we were all discussing, and this will go into our topic, like, you know, you want to buy an Awakened Realms game, you know it's going to cost a ton of money, and you know it's probably going to take an hour and a half to set up the game to play, but man, do you want...
Yeah, you know the production's going to be great, you know the minis are going to be great, it's going to have more content you'd ever need.
Yep.
They're becoming one of my favorite studios over the last few years. Not like of all time, but like, man, their stuff is just look at that box. And the eternal dragon just constantly eating himself and everything like that. It just looks absolutely gorgeous. And the idea of the mythical beasts and ancient dragons and Dragon Eclipse. Now, the only thing that I don't like about this game is they're saying it's only 1 to 2 players.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. It's one of their first games that limits you down to 1 to 2.
I will not play this one player. I don't think I've ever played a board game by myself. Unless you're calling like set it up and tear it down a game, then I play that all the time.
Yeah, I play that game
that's
too.
my only hesitation with this game. Do you guys know do you know more about it? Is it more card or hand management, or what can you guys tell me about this?
It's hard to say for sure. It's pretty early announcement from what so when Awakened Realms announced this a little while ago, I think it was in a video that had a lot of new stuff coming out from them. But
yeah, it's like a concept art video too. It's not like a
there is a GameFound preview page which I can post in the chat. But there's not a ton. It looks like it's deck management. I don't know if that's deck building. I don't know if that's like deck construction outside the game. And it did have some elements where Adam and I were discussing. It reminded us a lot of Pokemon, where you're collecting dragons. You're using those dragons to battle other dragons to kind of do that kind of thing.
Yeah, which that makes me really want to play it.
And it sounds like there's a lot of exploration in it too. So let me post the link for. So that's the GameFound preview page. Link in chat there if anyone wants to go check it out. But it looks great.
Yeah, the email I got from Awakened Realms, because they have enough of my money, so I'm signed up for their newsletter. It says that it is a deck management. Each creature has a unique deck of cards as you can use in combat and special abilities, offering endless tactical possibilities to master. As you journey through the world of Dragon Eclipse, you'll face hard decisions and discover different paths ahead. Manage your cards and energy to brave your way through this fantastical realm and uncover its secrets. A card game I could get behind. A card game like maybe a Pokemon or something like that, I could get behind. I'm just, I guess, thrown off a little bit because on the same email it actually shows a plastic miniature figure that comes with the game. I should have read more on it. So we'll see. But man, it just Awakened Realms, they are hitting it out of the park, at least for me.
I wonder if it does something along the lines of like taking like combat mechanics. This is a shot in the dark, all right?
Come on,
like take combat mechanics you get in like a like a fantasy fight. Just got a frog in my throat. Perfect timing tonight. Like Arkham Horror or Marvel Champions or something like that. But then you're also progressing along this board, and you come across the enemies that are represented by the miniatures and stuff like that. I mean, that in my head, that's what was happening because I was absolutely turning it into like a Pokemon battle, but I get to travel across different maps or story to go do the battles, which then it being a 2-player co-op would make sense because if there's a lot of cards to collect from winning things, it would get really outrageous as far as the number of cards in the box for like a 4 or 5-player game. So if it were like a more contained version of something like an Arkham Horror where there's a campaign in there, dude, it could be very cool.
It could, yeah.
How long do you think somebody comes up with rules so that you can battle your dragons? And then
against each other?
You get your own team of 6 going, and then
it sounded
sort of
like
ashes, and so you have your dragon that you're playing.
From what I read, it almost sounded like that was something you could already do maybe against other players, but I'm not certain. I kind of got that vibe from reading through the GameFound description, but it's still too early to know for sure. But that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm super intrigued.
Yeah.
Maybe battle other. Dragon. Oh man, have little dragon battle tournaments. That'd be super cool. Courtney kicked my ass at it.
That's the twist at the end of the story. You have to fight each other if you're playing. Like, well, there can only be one Dragon Master, so and that's just ruin the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which I do like that idea. If I think that's actually a pretty cool idea. If you're going to make a campaign game, make it card based, because then it makes it easy for expansions in the future. You know, you can just have like a new deck of cards. I think that's one of the things that Arkham Horror has hit out of the park. Is just adding the new cards that allows the gameplay to continue to go on. So if this is like that, it could offer like a vast range of possibilities of possibly PvP if you have this deck or other things like that. So we'll see as more and more comes out.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk more about it on the show. But Dragon Eclipse looks gorgeous.
Well, and keep in mind, this is an Awakened Realms product, so when it comes out, there's probably going to be many expansions you can get with the base, which might have some of that stuff you're talking about, maybe not, but, you know, you'll have it pretty much, unless they do the 2-wave shipping thing, you'll have it with the base game.
Oh, man.
But I'm not going to mention 2-wave shipping for Rob. So
I've learned my lesson.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next topic. So it's another Awakened Realms
Level
property
7,
here.
Omega Protocol 2.
Yeah, man. I'm excited.
That's what it looks like a little bit. So this is Nemesis Retaliation. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, Nemesis Retaliation.
So this is the third Nemesis game, and it from what I saw, it might be the last, but at least it's the first Nemesis game where you go in and you are supposed to be fully prepared for what you're about to face.
Yep.
Because in Nemesis, it's kind of notorious for putting you in there with nothing to help yourself with, and you were just at the mercy of the aliens right away. But this is a little bit different. So you're a team of, I guess, soldiers maybe, going into a base, fighting aliens, fighting the intruders, not the aliens. I can't.
Are
say
they
that.
avoiding saying Space Marines?
I don't know. But yeah, do you all have any? What do y'all think about this one?
I'm super stoked, and actually, I hope they do play it like Level 7 Omega Protocol. I don't know if you guys ever played that game, but one person was the aliens, and then the other team would like soup up, and then you'd have to fight them. And of course, the alien person is going to lose the first few rounds of the game because the guys are coming in like ultra decked out with all their equipment and stuff like that. And the whole point of that game is you go down 10 levels, and each level gets harder and harder, right? I know on the first Nemesis game, at least when we played, unless Kent was just making it up, that when you die, the first person to die becomes the alien player.
Well, that's a variant, so that's not like an official. It is a variant that you can.
I do think though that would be cool on this if there was somebody who could control the aliens, and you just kind of went through that area where you had to clear out the bunker or the lab or whatever you wanted to clear out. The miniatures are going to be gorgeous. The board is going to be absolutely gorgeous. The rule book is probably going to be a little too long.
But this is the third time around, so I'm hoping for more streamlined setup. And Lockdown had more stuff.
Yeah, and it did have more stuff. But again, you're talking about a couple different books for the rule book. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to get it. I'm all in on Nemesis, and it's really weird too. I'm all in on the game that I've only played like less than a handful of times. but I just think it's so aesthetically pleasing and it's so absolutely gorgeous. And I love the theme.
The theme drips in that game.
Yeah.
Just drip, 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 drip.
Yeah.
It's such a gorgeous, such a gorgeous game.
Mhm.
And what I love about the first two games, like, and we'll talk about this later on games that we played. The game is brutal, and it's unapologetically brutal. It does not care that you
Yes.
died in 5 minutes. Like, good for you, you died. Okay, bye. Next. I'm hoping that this is that same way, where it's like these are like those. These aren't like your modern Marines. These are your World War II Marines, where it's like we're jumping off the side of the boat, we don't care, and we're going to kill everything. Like these are Grandpa's Marines, where they're just angry, they're upset, and they're killing all of the aliens. Um, I think they're going to go that way based off of how hardcore the first two games were. But I am hoping that somebody has a chance to be the aliens, and it's a one versus many.
It's hard to tell. I'm kind of hoping for the opposite. I'd rather have a game where you can go in and just like blow aliens away and you know do some damage.
Actually,
and if
feel
you
good
want it,
for once.
and if you want the other experience, you got the two other games for that.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I kind of want a little bit different, but so that way you can have whatever you want when you play Nemesis. You pick whichever one better suits your playstyle or whatever.
Yeah, that's my suspicion is that it's going to be a little bit more beat 'em up than the other ones.
I'm hoping
Yeah.
so.
I don't know.
I feel like
I feel like the first two are really good co-op. Other than the secret objective, you really do want to work together. Unless your secret objective is let the captain die or the person to your right to your left die.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was what mine was when we played it.
Because the game will get so out of hand so fast. Fires will spread, things will happen. You need to find different rooms. So I feel like the first two games, outside of your secret objective, you are working together. It would be nice if this one, it was just one person is trying to murder everybody else. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And the other thing, this one does have a betrayal element. I don't know if it's the same kind of mechanic as the other one, but it does mention betrayal in the game found page. So I wonder if it's more like a more, I don't know how to describe it, but like a different kind of betrayal mechanic than the original Nemesis. Maybe like you become bad like midway through the game, possibly. I don't know.
Maybe you get infected or something.
Yeah, it could be something like that too.
Yeah. That's
Do a
wild.
little do a little dead of winter thing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So
Well, like even like on the first two games, if you get contaminated after so many contamination cards, like it'll burst out of you and your player just automatically dies. What if on this one it's more like a fungus contamination and it takes over your brain, and without you being able to control it, now you're betraying everybody else. They had that mechanic in a couple of the
yeah, that's kind of like reminds me
Mansions
like
of Madness, where
Yeah.
like you went too insane. Like the game could use your insanity against
the,
Yeah.
players.
the alien host.
reminds me of the Thing, the Thing board games where you get infected with the parasite and you just start acting crazy.
Doing crazy things.
Yeah.
I still haven't played that one. The new one.
Well, there's a few different versions, but yeah, there's a somewhat newer version of the Thing board game.
Only like the snow on the front,
Yeah.
white and blue.
I think so. Yeah.
It looks good. I'm really excited for this, and it'll all be yours for $7,000.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Hey, you get a
Guaranteed
free
all-in.
used Toyota Celica with an all-in pledge.
I use Toyota.
Yeah.
Well, especially if they offer all the previous stuff too.
Well, they might. Yeah, I don't know.
They're gonna have to start putting in like low APR rates for the Kickstarter. So it's just like, look, you can own this today for a couple of payments, $29.99 for the
Sign
next
up
6.
for the Nemesis credit
Yeah.
card.
Yeah.
They just need to. They opened up GameFound. They just need to open up a credit card
I
company
want to
too.
say they have
I mean-
a payment plan on GameFound. I could be wrong, but
I think they do.
might.
I think they do.
I can't
have-
remember if it's GameFound or
It's
something
different.
else, but yeah, I think they might have a payment plan.
Yeah,
Or
I think a
multiple
lot of
split.
them are probably going to go that route because I think is it PayPal or eBay, which are one and the same, but one of them now has like a soft credit check, like pay it in 4 instead of pay it all at once thing for like anything now,
Okay.
which would make sense for stuff like this. I mean,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
getting out of hand. I was looking at a Kickstarter today of like a small little single player game that plays in like 45 minutes, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. How much is the ask for this? And it was like $70, and I was like,
Oh.
Okay, I know there's some nice components in it and stuff, but I was like, whew.
I think that's the direction board games are going to continue to go for
Yep.
the foreseeable future.
I mean, they look pretty. I'll just continue to feed the addiction until I can't feed myself.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of the next thing that you may want to be addicted to,
Yeah,
we have Unmatched Tales to Amaze. This is a it looks like a cooperative and solo mode for the Unmatched system, which is by Restoration Games. And Unmatched is a kind of a reimagining of Star Wars Epic Duels, which was like a head-to-head kind of combat game. And so Unmatched it's an asymmetrical fighting game with card-based, and now you can play solo, co-op, and you're going to be fighting against the Mothman, and the other one was the Martian, I think, the Martian Invader. And they have they have some sidekicks, or not sidekicks, I forget, they've got something with them, like you can fight the Jersey Devil with one of them. There's a bunch of different stuff. You get 4 new characters to play as here, but you can also play as all the old characters from Unmatched. And you can also use these characters in the kind of the original Unmatched stuff, fighting each other or using it for co-op and whatnot. Okay. So I'm excited for this. Have you all played Unmatched?
Yeah, I have a bunch of Unmatched back here. So I'm pretty stoked on this. I think I'm definitely gonna back this. I like Unmatched as a system a lot. It's another one of those things. I mean, it's an entirely different game, but like talking about Ethnos earlier, it's such a smooth, easy game to teach somebody mechanically. It's not hard to learn like at all, but there's like a lot of interesting combinations, a lot of interesting things can happen when you're playing it, but you can kind of get someone going in 5 or 6 minutes, and it's just components are nice. The artwork on the cards is always fantastic, and they always manage, in my opinion, to have the characters feel thematic in the way that their cards plays. Like there's always some generic, this is just an attack, this is just a defense. But when you hit some of those other cards, you're like, oh, that is really interesting. How Dracula works, how the Invisible Man works. I like it a lot.
It is surprising how thematic it feels, and how easy it is to play. So I picked up the Jurassic Park with the Raptors and Muldoon, and I played that with my son, who's 6, and he loves it. And we play it. We've played it a bunch of times. So it's very accessible, and just it's really easy to play and fun. It's good. I'm super excited about it.
Man, that's crazy. I have pretty much not played any of the Unmatched stuff just because I don't necessarily like head-to-head games. So the fact that there's a co-op version of it that would let me try it without feeling the severe anxiety I feel while getting my face pushed in by somebody else is great.
That's huge, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, Matt.
Yeah.
I actually agree with you. I mean, I like Unmatched a lot, but I have a tendency to lean away from head-to-head games as well. It was one of those things where I played it somewhere, and then I was like, man, this is so slick, I got to get it. And then I ended up, I don't have all of it. I have quite a bit of it. Like I probably have 75% of the sets. And it's just one of those things where, like, I'll get it. Some of them I've only played once. Some of them are broken, just absolutely broken. Bruce Lee is kind of broken. I have like the little Bruce Lee expansion for it. It's just neat to do something like I'm going to play Houdini versus Bruce Lee.
Yeah. I love that.
Such a bananas concept, and it works.
You can have Bruce Lee fight the T-Rex.
Yeah, you can have Bruce Lee fight T-Rex. Like let's do it and see what happens.
Yeah,
that's great. It's what was that show that was on Spike TV a long time ago where they're like pairing off different like fighters from
Celebrity Deathmatch? Was that it?
I don't know.
Was that MTV then?
That was old MTV, but
it was like historical based where they would like bring in people to be like, this is how a rope dart worked, and they would just like beat the ever loving crap out of like human models. This is what that seems like. It's like, well, if we took a Shaolin monk and made him fight a meteor, who would win? This is exactly what I want to see.
There you go. Yeah, it's perfect for that. All right, so we are going to get to our games we've played recently. So we're starting with Adam here. So what you got?
Yeah, what is this?
Oh man! All right, so I picked. I really wish Roy was on today for this pick. This is one of the most Ameritrash games you can play. I'll just not be nice and say Amerithrash because this is truly, it's a garbage game that I love so much. It's not good. Me and my son played it a bit this week. I broke it out. This is a game that got onto my radar when my brother is a retired airman, and when he was deployed in Afghanistan years ago, he came back and he's like, "Oh man, we played this game out of the tarmac at the end of the day, and it's called Zombies!" Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Because you got to be emphatic
You got to have
about
three.
it. It is. It's a ridiculous. It's a ridiculous game where you lay tile and it's roll and move.
Mhm.
It's roll to move yourself, roll to move the zombies, and then it's a huge deck of cards that just have, as you see, it's very gory, crazy, campy horror art, and it's very take that. It's like you're trying to kill as many zombies as possible, not be infected, and then escape on a helicopter. And it's super random. Like when the helicopter tile comes up in the massive deck, could be right away, could be way down there. The dice rolls are going to affect how much you can move a zombie based on what your face number is in the dice. You can move. You'll get moving modifiers. You get combat modifiers. It's like Munchkin and Zombicide had a baby, stripped the game mechanics down to about a 5th or 6th grade level of simplicity with not a lot the rulebook's only about one
my
page.
language,
Dude.
Yeah, that sounds like a Rob game.
Oh, it's if you've got, again, this is one of those things. It's not a great game, all right? But like Sheriff of Nottingham, which isn't a game at all, right?
Yeah.
If you have the right table of people, you're going to have a rip-roaring time playing this thing because it's so mean. It's so random. I had such a good time playing it with my kid. We're like hollering at each other and calling each other names, like trying to play it the other day. And I'm like, man, I'm going to get this thing down and play it the next time I'm down with my brother and my cousins and stuff. And we're going to have a really good time playing it. And there's so much content for it out there. There's literally, there's probably 20 boxes of it. And to some degree, all will mix and match. Because you can house rule stuff. Like there's named locations that do special things. There's like no reference. You got to like dig into the rule book to find out. So like we make up our own rules for it sometimes. It's a lot of fun. It's cheap. The component quality isn't good. If you get different sets, the backs of the cards don't quite match because they clearly switch printing vendors throughout the runs. Like I don't know. I can't recommend it enough, but it's awful. Okay.
How old is this game?
It's been around for a long time. I would wager that it's 15 years old ish.
Oh wow!
As far as the first printing of it, like the first edition, it's changed hands. I think publishing even changed hands at one point during the run. But it's been around for a long time. There are literally like 20 different sets, and the publisher, I forget the name of the publisher. They only make like these insane like camp horror themed games, and all of them are like bizarrely shallow, weird take that games, like all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, the publishers listed are Edge Entertainment, which seems natural, and the other one was Twilight Creations.
Yeah, Twilight Creations is the big one. If you go onto their website, it's just it's lots of creepy, campy horror stuff. But the game's great. You can find it at most game stores. Actually, it'll be sitting kind of in the small game sections where you'll find like your Munchkin expansions and all of your love letters. If you go to a place that has like a big board game selection, or like Flux, it'll be like next to Flux. It's there with that stuff.
All right. Okay.
And that's kind of the vibe. I mean, Flux, I think, can be more frustrating than this game because, like, this game, the loop is very tight, even though it can get weird. Whereas Flux, can get way off on tangents. So I recommend. I think it's a lot of fun, and I hadn't played it in a while, and I really, really enjoyed it. So.
I have never even seen it, but like when I looked at the spreadsheet to see the picture of it, I was immediately taken with it. I was like, that looks incredible.
It's not a very big box either. I could probably throw it in my carry-on when I see you all next month. So maybe it's coming with me to the cabin.
Hey.
I would try it.
Sounds
I'll
good.
definitely try it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got up next, Courtney.
Well, no reason to yell at us, Kent.
What?
No reason to yell.
Sorry.
He's mysterious. You leave him alone.
So we played Skate Summer this past week or the week before, and it's I'm not a big skateboarder. I've actually never skateboarded before in my life.
Neither of us are.
Can imagine that.
If you could have guessed.
But so the theme doesn't really do much for me. I think it's a cool theme, but so you're basically playing cards down that are different skateboard tricks, and what I loved about it is just the push your luck mechanic, where you lay down a trick and then you have to roll dice to see if your balance is good, so you don't fall. Basically, so you do these different. Oh, there you put the picture up of the different tricks. So and so you play down a card, you roll the dice, see where it puts you on your balance scale. If you're still on balance, you can play another card and keep kind of going and push your luck even more. And then if you stop, then you land the trick, and then you can get different bonuses, and then you get points. Or if you fail, then you don't get as many points if you push your luck too much and you fall. But yeah, so and then I got this other board that you can move around to different parts of the board and gather different resources, I guess, and then so you're basically just trying to get points by doing these tricks. But I thought it was pretty fun.
What did you guys
There's
do
a lot
on
of
this
upgrades.
Dice Tower talked about it a lot.
A lot of people have been saying a lot of good things about it. It's pretty good. I mean, it's got you can do a lot of cool upgrades with your skateboard and get better at your tricks, and it's just, I don't
I
know,
love
it's really
the
well done.
presentation.
The art's really awesome too. It's by Pandasaurus. But yeah, I thought they did a really good job. It seems like I said, I'm not a skateboarder, so I don't know, but it seems pretty thematic, and they named all the different tricks, and I learned some different names of tricks while we were playing it that I'd never heard of. So that was
But
kind
yeah.
of neat.
I think it goes up to 5. Yeah, 2 to 5.
2 to 5.
It's not super
And
long or anything.
yeah, it's pretty quick.
But it's worth. I would say if you like
If you like skateboarding, for
it's
sure,
probably a
yeah.
no-brainer. Even if you don't like skateboarding, it's a solid game for sure.
I was gonna say I picked this one up just because I was like, man, I feel like I really need more push your luck games in my collection because I don't really have a whole lot. And unlike something like Ink and Gold, like this actually seems like it's got a little more meat to it, other than just I don't know, is it gonna be the time that everybody dies?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's got definitely more. Than
Well,
Ink and Gold.
and I like there's ways to like mitigate that luck a little bit. So you can go on your like I said, the theme is balancing and landing the trick, but there's ways you can play different cards to keep you from like falling, or I forgot what they call it, but
It's called bailing.
Bailing. But so as you play each round, I felt like I got better and better at like doing different tricks to kind of mitigate that, so you can do more and more tricks. So it was fun.
It looks gorgeous. And then ever since Matt and Roy and I played that Clank, I forgot how much I like Push Your Luck.
yeah.
And so this, I love the aesthetics on this. Sort of reminds me of like a hip. I know this is not the same thing at all, but like remember that old Nintendo game Paperboy? It was really bright colors and
Yeah.
This almost reminds me a little bit of like a skateboarding Paperboy where you're running around town. And I love that little board that you showed.
The board.
It's got Jet Set Radio vibes, kind.
Oh
cool
yeah, that's very
aesthetic.
true too.
Like I will play and/or buy your game if it looks good.
And if you look at that board, all those little pieces on it are like you can flip those tokens over or take the tokens off, and it makes your stuff better. It makes you do things better. It makes you get better. Increase your hand limit, increases your balance. It does a lot of cool stuff. So there's a lot going on with that pretty thematic looking board too. It's very functional.
Would you mind bringing this for CavinCon?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can bring
Sure,
that.
we can put it on the list.
Yeah, sure.
This looks amazing.
Yeah, this is
All right.
solid.
Cool. So we played Namiji, which is also a pretty looking game. This is it's a game by Antoine Bauza, who he's designed quite a few different games, like Seven Wonders, Takenoko, Tokaido. But this is actually like a sequel to Tokaido.
It looks like Tokaido.
So Tokaido, yeah, it's I don't know if it's more complicated or less complicated than Tokaido, but this is kind of a successor to Tokaido. And it's more of based on you're like in a fishing village and you are traveling around the board. And it's got this time track thing going on where the person in the very back can move their boat last and moves their boat first. You go into a spot and you can go as far as you want, but you can't go back. So the different spots you land on are very easy things you can do. So you can collect panorama cards, which your kind of, it's like you're observing these different creatures, like you see whales and dolphins and octopuses and stuff. You can go fishing, collect fish, and when you do that, you have this is a deluxe version that's got these really awesome painted miniatures for your boats that you're using to sail around.
Yeah.
And so you're putting these different fish and tokens on your board. You can do this kind of push your luck thing where you draw crab tokens out of a bag, or shrimp, I should say. And if you draw too many crabs, you bust. But all the actions are really easy. It's kind of, the board is broken up into 4 sections where the once you reach a dock and it kind of ends a section, you have to wait for all the other players to catch up. And then you kind of do a draft when you get to the dock, where the person who got there first is going to get first pick of all the cards, and then you go down the line. So you might want to go to the dock quicker than everybody else because you might want, there might be some certain card you're really looking for, or you may not care and you get more actions because you just kind of hang back and go to all the different spaces. Because if you're in the back and you can just keep going to different spaces as long as you're still behind everybody else. So it's really simple, really accessible. We played it 2 players. I will say 2 players is probably not the best player count for this kind of game. It goes up to 5. And when you do play 2, there's kind of a dummy player that you use to, it's like a neutral player you move to kind of block spots and stuff. But I would probably say play it at 3 to 5 is probably the best player count for
Yeah,
it.
it sounds a lot like Tokyo.
But it is a lot. I think it might be lighter than Takedo. I can't say for sure.
Wow.
It's been so long since I played Takedo, but it is pretty light. But it looks great, and it's simple and easy, and it's just that is Namiji.
Yeah.
I think that's
Great. Rob, do you want to
Oh.
just co-op this one?
yeah. Here we go, Matt.
Man, so did not get to play a physical board game, but me, Rob, and Kent all got together earlier in the week and played Nemesis Lockdown on the computer.
And if you sign up for a $99 a month Patreon, we'll play with you.
That is not true right now. We don't have any Patreon.
There we go.
But maybe.
But yeah, I mean, so we had tried to play Nemesis Lockdown at Dice Tower, but it was kind of late, and Nemesis pretty rolls heavy. It's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts. But playing a PC game was actually surprisingly simple. I mean, did any of us play the tutorial? I think we just jumped right in.
I played 5 minutes of the tutorial previously, though, to us playing. But yeah, I'll agree with you. One of the things that was nice about the PC game is it took away all the angst and all the setup, and it has a lot of reminders and tips to help you know what you can and you can't do, type of thing. But keep going.
And that round, the game has so much like end of round housekeeping that is always something that's going to take you a hot minute to do when you play the physical game. And I remember Kent was remarking multiple times about just how it's like, oh, hey, the round ended, everything happened, great, and now we're on to the next one. And it's just quick, and it feels pretty solid for what it is.
Yeah,
I loved it. The game was brutal. I also love it because of this setup, and it was nice to be able to play a Nemesis game with Kent real quick, and there was no one getting upset about rules or anything like that. But the game was so
it was really quick, that second round.
Oh my gosh.
For you.
This game is so unforgiving. I felt really good. My objective in the second game is I just had to be the last one alive. And
just remember, the whole time you were like, "Oh, I'm doing good.
Oh,
I'm doing good.
I felt
I'm
like
gonna win
I was
this
doing
one."
great. I had an armor suit on, and I picked up a big machine gun, and I had full health, and life was good. And then all of a sudden, I get into this one room, and this one alien pops out, and with my huge machine gun, of course, I missed the first time I shot. Let alone all my combats in the previous game, I missed all of those as well.
Yep.
And then when I finally shot the guy, he hits me back, and in one hit, my card that I have internal bleeding, he ripped my stomach open, and that at the end of every round, or at the end of every turn, I was also taking a light wound. And since I couldn't kill the guy, he would follow me wherever I went, so I couldn't get away. So I couldn't perform certain actions because I was still in combat. And so what I felt like I was doing great, and I looked like I was doing really good, 2 rounds after that, I was dead and out of the game. And then Matt and Kent are just la-da-da, just taking the time, running around.
Yeah.
They get attacked by guys. I think one of them hurt their wrist. Aw. Like hurt wrist.
No, we both had 2 serious wounds or something like that,
Yeah,
and we
towards
both
the end of
healed
the
our
game.
wounds.
My first
Yeah.
wound was, hey, your guts are open, and now you're going to continue. As long as you have the serious wound, you're also going to take light wounds, and you can't do this and you can't do that.
Yours was a serious,
Right.
serious wound. Ours was just.
It was like
mildly
super serious right off the gate. And then I finally killed the alien, and then I just died myself because of all the light wounds, because I couldn't heal myself. And I had to
Yeah.
use my actions to kill the alien rather than using my actions to do because I had in my searches prior to that I had a serious wounds health kit where I could heal myself, but you can't apply that while you're in combat. And as long as the alien's with you, you're in combat. So I'm running around and this stupid alien's following me, and I couldn't heal myself, and then I kill it, and then I just die because I'm out of cards. And I take 1 more wound and I'm dead. So it was brutal. But it was also, I really liked how, I understand we talked via Discord, but I liked how, I liked the board. I liked the way that they had, and we can see the picture on here a little bit, how, it was a board game. It felt like a board game, but it looked like a video game. I thought they did a really
It
good
did,
job with the presentation and how they made the game. It was fun. It was simple. It was easy to learn and to pick up. And it's also Nemesis. And it's brutal. By like the end of the second round, the third round, the whole place has lost power.
Yep.
Unless you can get to stuff really quickly. It's a hard game, y'all. It's a hard game.
But
Oh, and I was going to say that's the one thing I felt like I was like, man, have we been playing Nemesis right? Because the amount of adults that would come out each time they were like, yeah, we'll just roll for the intruder, and it was like, yeah, an adult. I was like, good.
it was so many. Yeah.
I felt like some of the other ones you would at least see like the crawlers or like the the little baby things rolling around first, but nah, this just jumps right in. It's like, hey, bud, and you're like, oh, okay.
And then the queen comes out.
Yeah, the queen comes
Yeah,
out all the time.
In one shot, kill Kent, right? Kent tried to
Yeah.
leave
Yeah, well, the first game, I got just destroyed by the queen in the dark.
And that's a valuable lesson.
The other thing is maybe so it plays so much quicker because you don't have to go through all the steps, and I think it's just go quick. So it could be that we're playing more rounds. It feels like we're playing, for the same amount of time. You're going through many rounds, and you're getting more spawns and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It feels.
So it just makes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes the game just so much easier, and I liked it so much, like on the digital version, that it's like I don't know if I want to go back to the physical just because of the rules overhead and all this. All those rules make it thematic, but all those rules make it really hard to play properly.
Look, I think it has a place. Some
Yeah, I mean, I get
some
it.
low
Yeah.
lighting. Maybe a theme night, some good food. Everybody settles in, murders their friends. But yeah, honestly, the game played so easy. I'm just like sitting here like, I want to play more. Just because it also takes this game that feels very big, and it's like we played 2 games in less than an hour.
You can.
Yeah, it's like, I know that it's like,
what is it?
yeah, it's
$15 on Steam too.
It's like
something like that. It's maybe 15 or 20.
Yeah, it's probably the base game with nothing's $100, so it's worth a try.
Yeah,
I mean,
honestly,
Yeah.
I would probably play the digital version over. Because here's the problem with the game, and I love the game, and I'm probably going to get retaliation, but I sort of hope that they do retaliation digitally as well. When you get the game, especially the lockdown, depending on because on lockdown is different than regular Nemesis because you have the outside and the colony version or like another board. There's a lot to carry around. It's a lot of boxes because the pieces aren't small pieces either.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of chips and icons and cards and figures. Where playing it digitally, it was, got kind of spoiled. It was nice to just be able to log in, type in our little password to make sure we got into our private server, and then just play. That was very nice. And also to have everything taken care of. That's one of the things that I also like about Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. The app takes care of a lot of that stuff. This took care of all of that stuff. We didn't have to worry about anything. We could just jump right in and play the game.
That's what I was going to say. This makes me almost wish that there was an app integration for the board game that you
right.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just to help with some of that crunch.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Especially, and I think they could do the app integration like Mansions of Madness has, because again, you're playing sort of co-op, right? Unless you have an objective where everybody else needs to die, it's advantageous for you to work together. Hey, I'm going here and I'm doing this thing. And we were talking about that while we were playing the game online. So it was a lot of fun, but it does spoil you. You know, and the price point, you'd rather pay $100 to log, and that stuff is heavy. And if you're playing with Kent and stuff, Kent and Courtney don't take breaks. If they're running or walking somewhere, they're just taking off. And you got to carry all these bags and do all this stuff. And it's hot in Florida, and you're just carrying all this crap, man. It's like, let's just play the digital edition. So I think, with Kent and stuff, at least, I'm definitely going to play just digital because I don't want to carry all that crap around anymore.
Yeah, I'm down for digital whenever anybody wants to. We'll go play again. I'll do it again anytime.
Yeah,
but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I guess we can move on to our topic time. So we want to discuss board game replayability. And there's a lot involved with that, or there can be a lot involved with that. So how would you all what would you define replayability as? And what does it mean to you specifically in relation to board games?
I think the game itself, I know a lot of times when people think of replayability, they think of like campaign games or story games where it's just like, okay, this is an experience that I want to experience again. But for me, it's more about like the mechanics. Like I have played Wingspan probably more than I've played any other game ever, just because it's like the mechanics feel good and I can just pull it up on my phone and just sit there and play birds and put them down, and it's great, it's fine, and it feels fun. But it has this thing that always gets me, which is at the very end of the game, I'm like, man, if I just had like one more turn, just one more action, and it just leaves me wanting to continue to do it. And I think for me, that's sort of what drives replayability, is that like desire to do it again, to learn it, to maybe be able to do it a little faster. I don't know. It just something scratches that puzzle part of my brain.
So is it coming from a place of improvement? Like you want to get better at it, you want to do something more efficient, or you just want to get that enjoyment of just the experience again?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I'm not super like, okay, well, I definitely have to improve my score this time, but like I do always kind of look at my scores and track them. I'm like, oh, hey, that round, I did pretty decent. I wonder what I did differently compared to other rounds. And then I'm like, oh, this round I think I'm doing pretty good. And it's like you score a 60 and you're like, ooh. Getting beat by the like easy and medium AIs. But
also, it's a great app, by the way. Wingspan is a great app.
Yeah, it's playing it on Steam is a little weird at first when you're trying to scroll through the different layers and figuring that out, but it is very well done. But I don't know. That's to me what I think makes a game replayable, is just the desire to get back because you want to do something differently, whether it be improve or like I have this desire to play Twilight Imperium 4. And it's just because every time I play with a new race and I read their little backstory and I go, cool, I'm not going to win this game, but based on this, I want to do something very specific with this particular race of characters. And that's what drives me to want to play Twilight Imperium 4, which is super odd to say.
Well,
it's a great game. Cool. It's a great game. For me, replayability has to do with a couple of different things. First, it has to do with an experience. If the game is a fun experience, I'll want to replay it again. But also, the second thing, replayability has to do with me. When I saw this as our topic, I immediately thought of party games. Because I play the same party games over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And it's not like it's necessarily a bad thing. They're really good games. Some party games you can just, after like Apples to Apples or other games like that, after a couple turns, all the funny jokes, all the little innuendos. That sounds so great. Where other games, when they have replayability, when you play them a lot, to me that's a testimony of how great the game is and how well it was put together. Where you can have a different experience with new players every single time. That's one of the things that's kind of tough with a campaign game, or like a heavy Euros. Once you kind of learn the game, you're going to try to go down that same path to maximize your points. And so you may not have necessarily a lot of replayability. You may play it multiple times, but you're probably going to do the same thing over and over again to try to maximize your points. So for me, replayability, especially with my wife and our friends who aren't board gamers, I need to have a fun, quick game that can make everybody laugh, have a good time. You can teach real quick, get to the game real quick, and then play something else. And so I like it. I'm a big fan of replayability, because we introduce a lot of people, especially like a lot of people from our church. We're constantly introducing them to games, and so it matters. It matters. Like the Ethnos, that was one of my issues that we had with Ethnos was it didn't look very well. A lot of people didn't necessarily want to play it. But once you played it and you learned it, you're like, wow, you can play this a lot because of what we talked about earlier. You have the different races. You have the different options. You have those different abilities. And so I'll buy a game. I'll happily buy a game if I know I can play it at least 3 or more times. I may not buy that heavy game, though, like a Gloomhaven or something like that. I won't necessarily. I'm not as eager to buy one of those games because I'm probably not going to replay it. But like a party game or something like that, especially if it can make my wife laugh, or if it's something that it can kind of break the ice for a good icebreaker, that matters a lot to me. So replayability in board games, it's a big deal. If it's going to make my shelf, it's got to be a game that I have to play at least 3 or more times to be able to justify it. Or I play a version of my friend's games, but I own the box because I have several of those that are still in shrink where Matt and Kent and Courtney own them, but I play their versions.
Right. Well, it's good you got a number. I don't know if I have a number. I don't know if I could say I have a certain.
Like when he was trying to like mid-max and all that kind of stuff with the birds and the one more turn, like I don't know. I guess I've never thought about it that way of like, man, if I could just do something better. I don't know. I'm not that serious when I play a board game to try to maximize the potential. I'm all about the experience. Like I just want to have fun. There are plenty of times I lose so much playing board games. I don't play board games for pride. It's a very humbling experience if you're Robert Newman, you're playing board games. I get my butt kicked all the time.
Well, I would argue that you do try in Blood Rage or Champions of Midgard, maybe to go for better or improve your score, to improve your strategy or whatever too. But yeah,
it'll depend on who I'm playing
that's
against.
True.
But for the most part, I just want to have an experience. Like there have been plenty of times, especially when Matt and I were doing the old show, where we didn't even really play the game and we were having so much fun talking and having experience with the game, rather than having to win type of a thing. But if a game is that much fun, where it will bring me back to the table, that's what matters. But man, Matt, now you've got my brain thinking about all these games where maybe I could do better at. And I guess that's why I don't do so well, because I'm not trying to min-max, except for Blood Rage and Champions of Midgard, which I guess that's a theme there.
Well, party games, you don't really need to min-max, right? I mean, a lot of games are right, exactly. You're not keeping score. So for those, you're definitely playing for the experience. You're not trying to get, like just one is when we play a lot. It's like
Love just one.
There is a way to keep count of how many you get right. But you can keep track of that, I guess, from game to game.
I can't tell you how many inside jokes we have from Telestrations.
Right.
Yeah,
Telestrations is such a dumb, simple, easy game. And there is scoring. We have never kept the points. Our whole point is if you're a terrible artist, we want to play with you.
Exactly.
And whose pictures make you laugh the hardest? It's like once you get around the circle, oh crap, it's gotten to Robert. What is this going to look like now?
Well, that's the whole thing is I've realized, like, we've played Telestrations and if people are really good at it, then it's so boring because it's like when you get from one end to the other, it is the exact same thing, and that's really not what you want in that game. You want something to come out like completely different than it started out with. Absolutely. So it's like some people. Then we started like messing things up on purpose because then it's more funny that way.
I totally would mess up things on
My
purpose.
father-in-law, who is he's still a pastor, but he's a retired steel worker or a welder and stuff like that. He's like such a down-to-earth, very conservative, very just like, hard-nosed, hard worker. You work for what you got. And he doesn't really joke around a lot. We played illustrations with them one time, and he can't draw to save his life. And he had puppy love, and he drew a man holding a dog, but the position in which he was holding the dog, it looked very inappropriate. And so when it came around to me to guess what he had just drawn, I wrote bestiality. So you have because it looked terrible. And so he got so mad and so flustered, but it was like one of those like ha mads, like he's not really mad, but we all just lost it. I think he actually fell out of his chair because he was laughing so hard. Because he's like, that's not what I was talking about. That's not what it was. That's the type of replayability, and I feel like I get that more with party games. Like these other games, unless it's like a quick game, I won't necessarily. I don't know. Never mind. Forget the last 10 seconds what I was going to say. Because I play like Blood Rage and other things like a lot. But like a Western Trail or something else like that, I don't necessarily care to play for a bunch of times. I'll let somebody else talk. I'm going to mute myself.
What you got, Adam or Courtney? Either one.
Go on, Courtney.
What do you think?
I don't know. Replayability for me is just it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of those two things that you were talking about. And I think it just depends on the game because like we Kent and I both are like Euro games, but like I mean, I like party games probably a little bit more than Kent does.
Not a huge
But
party game fan.
I like the experiences, so having different experiences is important. But playing Wingspan, I love a game that, and I can tell it's a good game when I'm done playing it and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, what could I do next time? What could I have done this route to score points or different things. So if I'm still thinking about playing the game after I'm done playing a game, then that kind of tells me it's a good game and it's got good replayability. But I think from like just a board game industry kind of standpoint, it's more of like different factions or different things that they add to the game to make it a different game every time you play. Like with Wingspan, for me, it's it's very rare that I'll get the same bird card every, each game, so I feel like that's what makes that game different every time because you'll get different cards with different powers and stuff, so you can never. I mean, I know a lot of people say just go for the eggs, so, laying eggs and stuff like that, but I don't. I just like looking at all the different card art and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm with. I think the way there are times when I think the board game industry, Courtney, you kind of touched on it. Sometimes the things that get valued as making something replayable are bloat a game and make it harder to replay. Wingspan's actually a really great example. I like Wingspan a lot because it's wildly accessible and it has a lot of variety without making you do anything different in the way you set up the game, and not making you do anything different in the way that you might even initially approach your first couple turns. You start to play through the game, and naturally it makes you, you're going to have to play it a little different this time. You have to, because you're going to get these completely unique cards, and there's all of these unique cards. I mean, for anyone, in chat or anyone who's listening later, like if you haven't played Wingspan, it's a game with, I forget how many cards are in the base. It's like 235 cards or something in the base game, or 180 or something. And they're very, very unique, and it's going to kind of force you to play it a little different, even though there's a predictable cadence to the game. And I think, for me, those types of games have that sweet spot for replayability. Like, that's the kind of game where, like, not only am I probably going to, like, enjoy it, but, like, the weight and the variety that the game has built in doesn't require me to fiddle with the game too much, right? That I like an awful lot. And I think that Wingspan's, I think whether people are consciously realizing that or not, like I think that's a huge testament to the success that game has had. It's had just a massive amount of continued success, and those types of games, I always just really tickle me in the right way. It's kind of like and they can be different games. They don't have to be kind of like that lightweight Euro, which is kind of what Wings. It's not really a Euro, but you know what I mean, like kind of a non-thematic game. It's so hard to categorize games in the last 5 or 6 years.
It's really tough nowadays.
But like you could play something like one of my old favorites is Dead of Winter. In Dead of Winter, you set it up the same way every time, right? It's not hard to set up. I mean, it's a little more of a setup than Wingspan. But like once you played that game 4 or 5 times, you're like, oh, I know how to set this up. Oh, I know how to play it. It is not a complicated game. There's a lot happening, but it all changes based on those card draws, based on those crossroad cards to add the little flavor and the hard decisions. You're not dealing with it, and it's kind of to Rob's point. Like I enjoy a campaign game or whatever, but like having sometimes too many different factions, they have too many varying mechanics, or there's like, again, I'm saying this about games that I do enjoy, or something like, like an Arkham Horror, like a different campaign for Arkham Horror. Like you have to kind of learn a different little rule set. You might get different cards if you play the different investigator. Like I think, as much fun as I might have with one of those, and as much as I may like it, it's not as replayable as like Wingspan or Dead of Winter or I'm trying to think of another one, like 5 Tribes, every Bruno Catala game. Right, there we go. I'll stand Bruno a little bit, but those are games that are very easy to set up, but they'll kind of surprise you with their variability. And I think that's what's important to me, is that they're fun enough for me, but I also like them at an accessible weight, because same as Rob, I'm often with people from work. We had a bunch of our interns the other day. We played the hell did we play? Oh, we played Snakes by Big Potato Games. I don't know if anyone's ever played this. Big Potato Games.
I wanted to play that.
Like a bunch of old parlor games and basically turns them into like slightly better component versions of themselves. And Snakes is just like, it's just werewords or something along those lines, where it's like everyone has a word they're trying to guess. A couple people know what the word is, and they're going to try to get you to guess wrong, and they're going to get points for getting you to guess wrong, and you're going to get points if you guess right. And it's multiple choice, right? And they're absurd trivia questions. And like, I've played that game so much in the last 2 or 3 years, and it's not mechanically that impressive, but kind of to Rob's point, it's a party game, and it's very accessible. It's accessible, and that experience you're going to have with it is so good. It's so delicious to see somebody have to lie for the first time if they've never played a game like that, or see people just put their foot in their mouth, like with like circular logic, trying to like make you think that they're not advocating for one answer or the other or whatever. It's a really good time. So for me that's replayability. It's kind of that combination. It's that really accessible experience, but it's also that game that's like, it's that smooth game, that game that's the right weight, it's the right repetition, but it gives you something different when it plays. And I occasionally want to be better too, but I lose a lot, as you guys know. I'm not. I think when we were at last time I was at Dice Tower with y'all, I think I won 1 game and that whole trip.
That's what it's about, man.
I think Kent and I have talked about how like CMON has gotten really good at replayability, because like the Marvel United universe, it's like they have all those different heroes, all those different villains, but the game is like still fundamentally the same. So
like
you
Massive Darkness also.
Or
Massive
a lot of their other games they're getting better at that, like just adding a whole ton of content, but just really easy to plug and play kind of thing.
And you all hit on it where it's like, you can just, it's the same game, you just have more stuff you can just throw in and use without having a lot of rules overhead or like, figuring out all this new stuff. It's a very good way to do it.
I think that's also really important, because I've recently hit a point with like kickstarting stuff where I'll back games that are established games that are like known to be good, and the one I'm in particular thinking of is Isle of Cats. And I was like, love Tile Land, heard it's a great game. Kickstarter came out, backed it, and then I was like, oh, well, I guess I should get the expansions. And then the game shows up, and I'm sitting here going, I don't even know how to play the regular game, and I have 9 different expansions that all have different rules for different cats that do different things, and I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Gosh,
so some of that stuff actually hurts replayability, I feel like. Or it hurts you from getting the original game played, maybe. Because you just get overwhelmed with all the stuff. Yeah.
Well, and you want to use the stuff because you bought it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
right.
True.
Yeah, and I think that's a really tough one. Like I mentioned, Isle of Cats is a super slick game too. To me, that's one of those games that's weighted. It's one of those weighted games where you're like, oh, like it feels so so easy to play. But like I mentioned Five Tribes, which gets played a lot in my family. My family loves that game, like my extended family. So like my in-laws and my mom. Oh my gosh, my mom's the worst with that game. And I don't think I have played any of the expansions for that more than once. And they're not particularly complicated expansions. But just because usually there's one new person that sits down at the table or something when we play it, and it's like, nah. It's kind of just making the box hard to close at this point. So I've almost always just played original. It's such a slick game. You don't really need anything else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So did you all have? I know Rob said his replayability to get value out of a game is 3. Do you all have any similar in numbers, or do you have any? Is it dependent on the game?
To call it replayable?
Yeah, like what? How many times do you have to play a game to feel like you've got your plays out of it and you felt like it was replayable enough? To kind of get value out of that game. I know it's going to be different for everybody, but is there kind of a point for that for you all?
Kent is called to the new, so we play a game once, and
I would say for me to get replayable, I feel like I need to play it twice, and that's good enough for me.
If it makes it back.
That's why replayability is so low on the
yeah,
totem scale for
that's
us
why-
because
yeah.
I feel like we never it's very rare.
And then the
that we'll-
bigger question is, in the board game hobby in general, are hobby gamers too concerned about replayability in their games if they're not playing them that many times in general?
I don't think they're
I guess it
concerned
depends
enough.
on the games, but
I'll be honest. I think
I don't
it's the
think they are.
opposite. I think they are too concerned with it, or at the very least, it's such a concern that a lot of these publishers and designers are trying to work in features to make the game seem more replayable, and not all of them, I think, hit the notes that they want it to. Where it's like sometimes they're doing something for the sake of replayability, like adding extra expansions or doing this, and then what it does, for me at least, is starts to bog it down. Where I'm like, okay, yeah. I just want the regular game. Just give me whatever the game is supposed to be without the bells and the whistles and the all this nonsense.
it's definitely a balance.
Yeah.
Like you were saying for Twilight Imperium, like without that kind of asymmetry and different stuff to choose,
Yeah.
which as replayability, you may not have as much fun, but like you don't want to go way too deep into the replayability where it becomes a burden.
Well, it's
almost.
like I remember when we played like Twilight Imperium 3, there was a bunch of different modules and stuff, and it was fun to play the game with different modules, but I also wasn't the one learning the rules. That was all Roy. Roy was learning it, teaching it, doing all that stuff. So it's like it's one of these things where the stuff that makes a game more replayable almost begs you to have a knowledge of the game that you've already replayed it several times to be able to fold that in pretty seamlessly. I feel like.
Yeah. I agree with that sentiment a lot, and I think that's kind of the games that at least that I was talking about when I kind of like pulled that out of Courtney's description of it, which was like it's a game that is rich enough and rewarding enough, but it's also I don't have to reread the rules, or maybe I go, oh, I forgot that one rule, I forgot how many cards you get and start with 5 people or whatever it is. I mean, I think that's what'll make it get enough plays for me to call it replayable. I don't know what the number is. I would imagine for me in a year, a game that I play 4 or 5 times in a year is probably like a more, as far as like a mid-weight game, those are the real replayable ones. And there's a handful that I play a dozen times a year, which is like, that's 5 Tribes and Splendor and things like that, or Champions of Midgard in my house gets played too. Like these things, I would say that's like all uber replayable. And not counting party games, because sometimes those get played 7 times in a night.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I've always thought it was interesting because with video games, I have a thing a friend taught me, which was if you're playing a game, you should try to get $1 per hour out of it. So it's like if you spent $60 on a game, you should probably, a good investment is if you spent 60 hours in that game. So if you buy, Skyrim at launch, hey, that's great. You had to put 60 hours into it. That was fine. But, board games probably not. That wouldn't work quite as well. But I was trying to think of
that's a lot harder.
What a comparative allegory would be. And I don't know if I came up with a good number.
That is funny you say that, because I would say for me, I get way more value out of video games than I do out of board games as far as pure hours spent, which... Yeah, I mean,
unless you include like learning the
Learning the
rules
rules,
and
yeah, I
setting
guess
it
so.
up and
Yeah.
doing all that
Oh,
stuff.
I didn't even think about that.
Setting it, taking it down.
Yeah.
Set up and tear down time.
That's a time investment for sure.
Yeah.
Man.
But
Or on a Kickstarter, the amount of
All right.
times you've checked your activity. That's playing the game,
Yeah.
right? I'm still waiting for
Or-
Final Girl season 2 here.
Reading all the updates from the Kickstarters and that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
I'm on that second wave shipping right now.
All right. Well, anything else you all want to add? Do you want to mention a game that you would say is your go-to for replayability? I know you probably already mentioned some, but anybody have anything else?
Well, Rob said he thought it was really important, and then he didn't say anything else. So.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Yes.
Oh yeah. No. I think one of the things that we take for granted um, is replayability. I'm sort of like Kent, and I like the cult of the new. I like that new shiny thing on my wall. I love being able to show off this new game. I got it. I played it. But I also think there are a lot of games that we may not be giving due credit because there's so many new games that are coming out. And sometimes I almost wish publishers would quit making as much games and just make a really amazing game rather than just constantly pushing out something new. But I think that's also a state of like where our world is right now. We're all consuming, and I don't know. I like the idea of having like an amazing game. And to answer your question about a game that's got really great replayability for me, it's probably got to be overall Mansions of Madness Second Edition. I love the app. I love how you can play the same mission in the app and it's going to move stuff around just enough. I love that it's a co-op. It's also one of the first heavy games that I feel comfortable bringing new players into it because the app helps with the setup and the rules and everything so much. And so Mansions of Madness is also one of those because it is strictly a co-op. It's not as intimidating where it's not that head-to-head because my wife also doesn't like head-to-head. I like head-to-head. And so playing unmatched, which I haven't played, I would love to try that. That doesn't bother me, but my wife would never want to play that. She's like, let's just play together. And so that's another big deal for replayability as well as something that can I play this and have a different experience every single time that I play it, or at least a different memory, right? Like we can all laugh at the same dumb jokes, but can I have a different memory? Because that's why I play these games. I play these games to escape. And so, yeah, that's all I was saying, Courtney, before. And then, yeah, my replayability game is Mansions of Madness.
Yeah. And I would say, too, I think maybe if you're not, maybe into the board game hobby as much as I would say we are, and you're buying less games, you're probably getting more plays out of your game, so maybe replayability might be higher for you if you're not, consuming so many different games and trying so many different games. So I wonder if that's not. I wonder if being the hobby gamer buying all the stuff is less of the norm for the general population. I would think it probably would be.
Yeah, because like your sister and brother-in-law, they play a ton of Catan.
Oh,
like
right.
they
Yeah,
play
that's true.
Catan,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's tons of other people that just play Catan all the
Or
time.
Ticket to Ride, or
Yes.
just
Yeah.
or cards, just
Or just
Uno or Monopoly, or do they just play the same stuff over and over and over and over, and they might have played it 50 times and think that's not enough.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, that
Well, my
reminds
family.
me. Go ahead.
My family does that. Like on my mom's side of the family, we will only play card games, but it's like canasta or hand and foot or parcheesi and
Yeah.
stuff.
That's exactly
And they'll
what
play
I was
Uno
gonna say.
and cute little games like that with my kids, but that's about it. Now on my dad's side of the family, we'll play more heavy board games. And then on my in-law side of the family, we're either playing dominoes or a party game. And I think the heaviest party game we've played so far, which is not really a party game, but we played Downforce. Like I think outside of that, everything else has been a party game. And so I play my selfish Blood Rages and other games like that when I play with my friends because I've got all this, all these different family members that want to play all these different style of games, which makes it actually kind of hard as a hobbyist because then, well, crap, I can't necessarily buy the games that I want to play because I don't have Kent and Courtney that live nearby, and Matt's killing it in the world, and so he doesn't have time to play games with me anymore. And so I just got to be able
You
to
are
play
killing
games
it, Matt.
with
Oh,
everybody. But I would love to have a Courtney. And what I mean by that is, like, well, you guys both have the same hobby. You like the exact same things. My wife
It
loves
helps.
furniture.
I've talked to him about this all the time. Is that like what would happen to our marriage if I didn't? You know.
Or you'd find
We would.
something else. Or you'd find
It would
something.
just be a new hobby. It would just be a new
Yeah.
hobby.
Like my wife and I, we play stuff together now, but it wasn't always like that way. And sometimes it can be frustrating because I'm passionate about board games, and I want my wife to like it. You know, that's tough. So for me, the
Yeah.
replayability is a big deal because I want to be able to bring my wife into this, and I want her to enjoy it. And I also, you know, just to be completely open about, I want her to think, because when she sees that statement, bait card, you spent how much on this dumb game? I want her to like really
She's
like it.
excited
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
so she's like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
I get it."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's a lot of different factors that go into all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah. It's a big topic. I feel like we could go on for hours, but I think this is probably a good time to wrap it up. Unless you all have any last things you want to say about replayability.
Buy a
All right.
buy a game, buy a pandemic mechanics game if you want to co-op for replayability for anybody at any level, right? Either I was just thinking about games
Yeah.
I played an absolute ton in, like Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, and then Pandemic, and then I think Pandemic Iberia, and then Pandemic I forget the name of the Cthulhu one, but like those 5 games for different people, I just boom, 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 boom. It's like an automatic co-op game. There, none of them are that hard, and as long as you're not a jerk and power game people and tell them what to do, it's a very awesome thing to do because you can tell people how to play and answer questions for them because you're on the same team. I think that whole series would be the thing I would recommend to
Yeah.
people.
I think it's a fantastic recommendation.
I agree.
And I'm
Yeah.
excited for the
And there's so
Pandemic
many
Star
to
Wars one, too.
choose.
Yeah,
The Star Wars
the
Pandemic
Star Wars
great.
one is pretty good. I don't own it, but I did play it. But yeah, like just anything. Just pick
Yeah.
pick a Forbidden game and then pick a Pandemic game. Have one of each. Forbidden's that really family level, and then Pandemic's that little bit higher, and just pick one and do it. You can't go.
And they're coming out with a new Forbidden game, aren't
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked. Yeah.
Did we talk
Forbidden
about
Jungle.
Yeah, we talked
Yeah, we
about
talked
it
about the
last
news.
time.
it? Yeah,
last
yeah.
time,
Oh, I'm
Well, I guess that's another question for a different show. But do you guys feel the pressure now as board game podcasters to constantly try the new product? So you can't necessarily, you know, play some of the old stuff because nobody wants to hear about your 10th playthrough of Blood Rage, right?
Oh, so I'm dying. I'm dying right now because we had this discussion literally like 2 days ago. I told Kent, I was like, I would be so happy if they just stopped producing board games and we could just play what we have because we have this whole big wall of games that have never been played,
That would
and
be amazing.
it gives me such anxiety to look at it because I'm just like, I feel like we're never going to get through them all.
I love what you just
And then
said.
Kent gives me the spiel of, oh, but we're on a board game podcast now, so we have to play these games and we have to keep up with what's going on. I was
See,
like,
like most
oh.
people are like, man, I have my shelf
but-
or I have my little section of unplayed, and you just said we have a wall.
Yeah.
You don't have a
Yeah.
shelf.
Yeah,
You have
it's
a wall.
It's a wall. Yeah, it's a wall.
That's amazing.
And it's
But we've been doing that
and then
for
it
years
extended
now.
to a shelf. And
That's
yeah,
speaking of replayability. That's my replayability is I like to experience all sorts of different games. Like I'll try just about anything. So I'll play. I just like to get the different experiences and discover what the different games have to offer.
So he doesn't care about.
I don't really care
replayability.
that much about replayability.
I was gonna say-
I do in certain aspects, but for the most part, I don't need super high replayability.
I feel like replayability to you is also one of those things where you've played so many games and you go, oh man, I really like this mechanic, but I liked it better in this game. And so you think higher of that game because you liked maybe the way the mechanic was implemented in there.
It could, yeah, or just how maybe easier it was to play,
Yeah.
or kind of the experience it provided, even though it's got similar play. But yeah.
Don't get trapped in the I'm buying stuff for the podcast thing because
Yeah, I told him he couldn't use that excuse.
No, but again, we've been doing the same thing for years, so yeah, it's just,
Well, yeah,
it's
it's
just the way
different
of
for
the
you
world.
guys because you guys already were doing that before the title.
Yeah.
And again, you are lucky that you both have the same hobby.
Yeah.
We just have to incorporate and then use the tax savings to start buying a communal pool of video for board games.
Yeah, that's the move. Well, we have to
That's
have
the
that
next step.
conversation off stream. Apparently, I got to write off my plane ticket to Greensboro.
Take
All
some
right,
pictures.
guys. Well, let's wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a good night. I'm Kent signing out.
Yeah. Peace and love. Play more games.
Woo. Yeah,
Bye.
man.
Bye.
Have a good one, everybody.